Morning, everyone.
So how many people were at the rally last night? Good.
Yay, yay.
Good, good. Yeah, I thought it was really good. Melissa, I don't know if she's here. Is Melissa here? She really enjoyed it. Tony Cornelius, of course, was spectacular. And I was just saying to the group before that we may want to talk a public policy about maybe next year doing it at 8 o'clock in the morning as opposed to the evening, because that would really get people jazzed up to go to the Hill. But we have a lot of things to talk about.
A straw vote, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So what we're going to do this year, again, a little switch. We're going to spend a half hour having some conversation from you all, because from the conversations I heard, Nancy and Nicole, we seem to have had a lot more visits with the members themselves. And if they weren't with the members, the staff people couldn't get enough. So we want to hear what happened. And then we're asking, there are blank sheets of paper on your table. So if you have a particular question that you think you have a good answer for, please write those down, because we're going to collect those and then we're going to compile them, and then we'll send them all back out to you as part of a report as a follow-up to what's going on. So Nancy and Nicole, why don't you guys, the questions I believe are up on the screen, or was I supposed to hit the?
Oh,
There they are. So
let me ask a couple of other questions first, because, I'm the chair.
absolutely, you have the floor.
How many people did meet with a member?
Wow.
Oh, that's a huge number.
Wow.
Oh, that's terrific. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a silly question. How many people felt it was a really positive meeting? Good, good. How many people had some less than enthusiastic meetings? Okay. All right, so there were a few, huh? If you had less than enthusiastic no, it's a two-part question. You can't you answer it by raising your hand. Okay, forget it. So I think that one of the most interesting meetings I had of the day, I'm going to just chat for a second here, was I went into Representative Kennedy's office. He's my congressman, and met with a woman that I've met with for 5 or 6 years, who knows, seems to know every bill in Congress on mental health. And, we had a really good conversation. At the end of the conversation, I said, we're asking for, this $100 million now, and here's what we need. And she looked at me and she said, well, you know what we need? We need $1 trillion. I said, well, you're absolutely right. I said, do you think we can get it in this Congress? But she went on to talk about how far behind mental health is in terms of research and expenditure. And I said, well, let's aim for a good down payment this year. But it was a recognition of what we're saying. And in that sense, even though it was kind of like a really hard number to grab, it was so exciting to know that there are people on the Hill that know exactly what we need, that we really need to spend that kind of money to make a difference. So Nicole, you start out, because now I've already had a speech.
No, that's all right. The first question that we wanted to get your feedback on is what personal connections you made yesterday. And it doesn't have to be with a member or with a Hill staffer. It could be with anyone that you met along the way. I know I've talked to several of you who had other advocacy groups on the Hill that were coming up to you and asking you about suicide prevention, or other folks that you just met in the hallways or on the elevator. So that personal connection could really apply to anything. But we're curious about that experience from you all.
Should we have microphones
Yes,
that we're
we have
circulating
2 microphones
in
in the
turns?
audience.
Okay, we've got someone on this side, there's somebody on that side. So raise your hand if you can answer, if you have something you want to say with regard. So I see the gentleman here in the blue shirt.
Hi, I made a lot of connections yesterday, but there was one that was particularly.
Can you tell us who you are and what chapter you're from?
I'm Tim Gendron. I'm from Vermont. So it was after the rally, and it was after a few of us New Englanders got together, and then we were going to meet at the rooftop bar just down the street. I was a little late getting there, but I rode up the elevator with a gentleman who had just gotten on the 5th floor, so we're going to the 10th, and he saw me with my blue T-shirt. He says, I've seen a number of you around town this afternoon, so what's this all about? And I told him it's the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And then he went silent. And I told him, I said, it's a subject that most people don't want to talk about. And he looked at me and he says, I can well imagine. Then he quickly walked off the elevator. So that tells me that we still have a lot more work to do. Thank you.
Somebody over here. So our advocate of the year.
I'm Corbin Stanley. I'm from the Michigan chapter. We met with my representative's office, Alyssa Slotkin, and we met with one of her legislative congressional fellows. And she started asking about some of my research, because that's some of her background. And so I was telling her about it. And they've asked me to serve on their Health Policy Advisory Board. So I'm excited about that.
Anybody? Right here. Sorry, the light's terrible. Right here?
Why don't the interns sort of stay in the middle of the room so you don't have to run back and forth from...
Excuse me. Good morning, I'm Carmen with the Idaho chapter. When we first started our appointments yesterday morning, we were walking over to spend some time at the botanical garden because we had a little bit of spare time. As we were walking, Vanessa and I ran into the New York PD. And I reached out and shook a gentleman's hand and thanked him for his service. And then we had a discussion about why we were here. And I told him that we were here to help save lives, including our first responders. And he shared with us that he had just lost the man who had been the best man at his wedding, and 2 weeks later lost his chief detective. And he turned around and thanked us for our service.
Hi, Che Hernandez, San Diego, California. So I was in the cafeteria during a break waiting for an appointment, and some people asked if they can sit with me, and they were all from Peach Health Care Network in San Bernardino. And so I invited 3 of them, and we were just talking about everything, their cause, our cause. We talked about homelessness, access to care, and it just really highlighted how we're all doing different things in the community that mesh together. And we just need to work together and, you know, create these relationships that can make a difference.
So I'll tell. So the Massachusetts folks, we had to kill a little time before our Senate appointment started, and we were behind the Hart office building in a little coffee shop, and I looked up, and there was Bernie Sanders striding into the coffee shop. So David O'Leary managed to get a picture with Bernie Sanders.
Go to the next question.
Yeah, we'll go to the next question. What's a question that you were asked that you didn't have an answer for? Anybody stumped?
The call center, oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Abe Goldberg from the Wisconsin chapter. Hey, thanks for those applause over there. One of the statistics on our sheet talked about the call center number of calls that come into Wisconsin, and then we take 30% of the calls and the rest get sent elsewhere. And the question was, where are the call centers in Wisconsin? It was a great question, and we just didn't have an answer. So we made a few things up along the way. But no, just kidding. So we need some feedback on that. Where are those call centers in Wisconsin?
Okay.
And we can follow up on that. That's a great question,
Yeah.
Dave.
That's exactly the kind of information that we want you all to put on your yellow feedback forms, so we can help you follow up
Yeah.
with those questions.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can't see you. Right.
Ellen Walsh with the Kentucky chapter. We were asked, who decides the 3-digit number? Is that FCC? We didn't know. So who does decide that? Where does that come down from?
Who decides the 3-digit number?
That it's going to
I'm
happen
sorry.
and what
Yeah,
it'll be and all
So
that?
the Hotline Improvement Act that was passed last year by Congress asked the FCC to recommend which N11 number
So it
would
would be
be
the
available.
FCC.
So that's why the only ones that could be available that are unassigned right now are 611, okay? That's the only unassigned number, even though some of the phone companies use that in some areas for service and sales.
Yeah.
So that's
AT&T
what they
uses
have
it
to
in
do.
my
So
area.
that's what the Nancy report, the North American Numbers Council is recommending a dual use of 211, which if you read the ad that we put in yesterday and some of the comments of the Hill, a dual use is not going to serve our stakeholders well. It has to be a single use number. The other, Connor Jobs did some incredible research. Turns out, how many people know what 511 is used for? Correct. I had no idea. So of all the other numbers, 511 is the least used number. So if the industry prevails and does not allow, because of their people who are, like the head of the FCC is a former Verizon executive. So you can imagine where his heart is. So another possibility is 511, but we don't want to tell the FCC, their job is to tell us which N11 number is available. So you haven't heard the last of that, okay?
Not at all, yeah.
Sorry for the confusion if we didn't make that clear before you went to the Hill.
Hi, it's David O'Leary from Boston. We had an aide who we met with ask us very genuinely, how many people do you serve? And we were stumped a little bit by that. It's not really a question. We don't think of it in the, we serve everybody, but we talked about how many people came to our walks, how many different walks we have, how many, the numbers of suicide in Massachusetts and so forth. I'd just be interested in if anybody else sort of got that question, and if you did, how you responded.
I think if I had been asked, I would have said 20% of the population is at risk at any time, the United States population. But if you count the world, it's a huge number, right?
But I think that's a great question, David. So I
Yeah.
think we should kick that around at the staff level and the senior volunteer level and see if we can come up with some answers to those kinds of questions. Because I think it would be important to list how many people walk for us, and we could probably do an algorithm of some sort at least to give people some factoids.
Yeah, great.
I'm Summer from the Tennessee chapter, and we had a congressman that we got to speak with ask, of all the calls that come into the Lifeline, how many of them are made by people who are talking about or who have gone on to complete mass shootings?
Mass shootings?
Yeah.
Wow, I don't even think we could ever come up with that figure.
it
Because
was-
first of all, most of the calls are anonymous.
We
So-
explained,
Well, let me-
Yeah.
but it was kind of
Yeah, really.
a jarring question for
Yeah.
us, so I
Yeah,
thought I would.
Let me talk to John Draper and see what we can do. I think we have time for one more
One more?
answer, or in this, someone in the, right here in the back, right in back, yeah.
Hi, I'm Bill Hesse. I'm from Ohio. We had a question about domestic violence and suicide numbers. They had a meeting later in the day asking about that, but they wanted to know how many suicides could be potentially that have contributed to domestic violence.
And John's looking at me. I don't know the answer to that question, but.
Well,
And-
wouldn't we tie that to red flag?
we could certainly, when we follow up with that office, provide kind of the link between what we're doing and our work on extreme risk protection orders, because there are similarities between ERPOs and domestic violence restraining orders. But if they're looking in terms of just the intersection between domestic violence and suicide, we could certainly work with our New York team and see if we can find some research for that.
So real quick, sorry, Taryn from Utah. So we work really closely with our Domestic Violence Coalition, and actually their day on the Hill nationwide is today, because our rep joined us in our final meeting yesterday. And it's something to the tune of like 30% of, there's an intersect, right? Because there's a lot of DD homicide that, again, the person then goes on to die by suicide. So their ask, tied in with the extreme risk protection, is if we prevent the suicide, if we address the suicidal aspect of the individual, we could most likely avert the homicide. And so I think that's a great partnership and things that we could absolutely build on. But yeah, they're going to be on the Hill today, so kind of neat to see the intersection.
Want to go to the next question?
I already have the mic, so I'm just gonna share. Danny Gorman from the Minnesota chapter. So we were asked what the average wait time was for the Lifeline, because we were sharing the 8 seconds for the veteran hotline. And we were really stressing because we don't have any local call centers in our state. So that was really something that we touched on. And we were actually able to email during the day, and we got an answer right away so that we could share that number throughout the day. And it was a theme that people really wanted the numbers and the data in all of our meetings. So we were really thankful to be able to share that with them.
So what was the answer? I'm just curious.
77 seconds.
Oh, okay.
77 seconds is the national average.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was really good. I really loved the fact that my team was able, we were all monitoring emails all day, and then we would forward the emails to our experts and attempt to get them answers. So thank you for
Great.
sharing that.
So I think we're going to move on to the next question. It's kind of the flip of the one we just talked about. So what is a question you were asked that you felt really confident about answering? Maybe something that you felt like the sessions yesterday really helped prepare you for.
Oh, you're all so confident that.
Hi, Nicole Gartside from the Central Texas chapter. We met with a staffer from Michael Conaway's office, and he actually asked us, was really curious to learn, how do you know if someone may be at risk for suicide, or what does the treatment for that look like? And so we were able to reference some of the information in Talk Saves Lives, as well as talk about the research efforts we discussed in Monday sessions around what treatment is being used today and what treatment we still want to investigate and learn more about, as well as the lack of diverse options for people with different challenges. So that was really neat that a lot of the staffers seemed interested not only in learning about what they could do to help, but also learning more about the problem and the warning signs so that they could become more educated themselves, which was great.
Great, that's
Great.
great.
That's wonderful. And I would encourage all of you, when you send your thank you notes to your members, feel free to include that type of information, just as you're offering yourselves as a resource. So you can give that as an example of, this is the type of information that we have as an organization that we'd love to continue to share with your office. I think that would be really helpful.
Hi, I'm Kellen. I'm from the Eastern Missouri chapter. Let's go Blues. We were asked a lot about research and if we give, if Congress gives us money, funding, for research, why is that important? And I feel that our team from Missouri really was confident answering that because of the sessions that we had here, because of what we know from Dr. Jill with research and just from our time as a chapter. So I felt really confident saying, the brain is the least researched organ in the body, and we just need more on that. So that's what.
Right here.
Well, two things, because we got a few questions, and both of us who went are experienced at this, so we felt more comfortable. But one of the things was the research. The question is, I'm from Colorado, I'm Linda from Colorado, and we have one of the highest rates in the country. And the question we met with 6 of our members, and almost all of them asked, why are we one of the highest? And so one of our tricks was, well, that's a good question, and right there is where you can vote for that. So we would turn their questions into the legislation that was on the list, or the funding that was on the list. But the other question that I thought that was very helpful the other day was the diverse populations module that we went to. However, I'd love to see that really expanded with time, et cetera. But one of the things that really helped was those resources that we got from that session. So we have a bunch of follow-ups with them to, one, give them those resources and send them those links to those for the diverse populations. But also, we have a statewide crisis line. And so the other thing that we offered for every office was to give them a stack of cards for their district offices and their DC offices so that they would have them.
Beautiful.
That's great.
One more, maybe?
Right, right across the table.
Hi.
Oh, okay.
I'm Cheryl Long from New York, and one of the best sessions I think I heard today, because I'm an RN, I've been doing this for 30 years, was to understand the parity laws and really be able to explain why we needed more money and actually relate it to, internalize it with what happened with my brother when he died and what's happened with myself over the years, but externalize it with comparison of what has been spent on HIV and how we've made it a chronic disease that people can live with, and how little is spent on mental health and suicide prevention, that is a disease you're going to die from if you die from suicide. So I thank whoever did that session. It was really, it really was informative.
Yeah, so actually, a couple speakers have already prepared us for the next question, like which of the Monday sessions best helped you to prepare for your Hill Day? See a hand right over there?
Dennis, did you want to go?
Oh, sure, I'll go. Dennis Gill in South Carolina. In case you don't know what chapter that is, it's chapter of the year. Just so you, if you want to see the plaque, I have it on me.
He does.
I do. We used it for pictures yesterday. It was awesome. I am very blessed on this chapter. I have two clinicians with me. They're social workers that were part of the staff. And that CDC SAMHSA stuff went right over my head. But they got it because they live and eat and breathe it. So they explained that very well. So I want to say thank you for the preparation for that topic, because that's a tough one to explain, how the money flows. But you all explained it to us, and we were able to explain it on Tuesday. So thank you for that. One other ask is, can we get that sheet with all the, well, basically the ask sheet was 2 pages that we used a lot to go through yesterday. Can we get that in a PDF form? So when we do our follow-ups, a lot of our follow-ups will be via email. So I can say, hey, just a reminder, you agree to this.
Connor, Natalie, are you listening? Yep.
I believe it's already on the Google Drive, but if it's not, it will be shortly. But I think it's already up there.
Over there?
My name is Tia Jorgensen, and I'm with the North Dakota chapter. The veterans session with Ryan Gallucci was the most eye-opening for me. He went, I felt, really into detail about a lot of the specific bills, and they were very applicable to North Dakota. We have a very high population of National Guard and reserves. And so 2 of the members that or the staff members that we met with, one was from a very small town in North Dakota, so they understood the need for like the telehealth and the rural populations, and another one was from a larger city that has an Air Force base. So we were able to connect, and I felt if I hadn't attended that session, I wouldn't have been able to speak in such detail about the specific bills, so I really appreciated that one.
Great. We'll do one more, maybe, yeah.
My name is Valerie. I'm from the Valerie Fesh. I'm from the Alabama chapter. The session I thought that really was very helpful for me in my Hill visits yesterday was the mental health workforce expansion. There was so much great information. There were some good statistics that were, I thought, really impactful, and I used those several times in talking to different people. Our Senator Doug Jones in his office, that was something I was very interested in communicating with them, because I know he's very passionate and has been very responsive about mental health. But I found that I was able to use it in several of the visits and to really kind of get the people that I was talking to, the aides and staff, their attention. So that was very helpful.
Great, that's great. And this is the kind of information we love in your criteria, your responses, when we send it out tomorrow about the forum.
Yes, Nancy's referring to, we will give you all an evaluation of the whole event to fill out, so you can let us know what you liked and what you didn't like. So you guys can expect to have that in an email from us probably by the time you wake up tomorrow morning.
And then maybe your feet won't hurt by then.
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit.
So go ahead, last question.
Okay, we are interested in what your main takeaway is from your experience on the Hill yesterday.
Lots of hands. We've got
See
people
Michelle
over
and
here.
Hannah
Hi, I'm Hannah with the Florida Tampa Bay chapter. This is something that I already knew, but it was a great reinforcement, and we had a couple newbies in our meeting, and I think it was wonderful for them to see. But one of our meetings was with the legislative staff, and I guess the congressman had his door open and was just kind of listening. And we were doing our introductions, telling our stories, and the congressman walked out of his office, kind of pushed the LA over and sat where he was, and was like, I want to hear your stories.
Oh, that's great.
And there was 4 of us in there, and he took the time to hear all of our stories. He looked over our vignettes, and then he had to take a call from his son, left, and the LA took over, the rest of the meeting, but he really just wanted to hear our stories. And I just think it goes to show, like what you guys have always told us, that's what they care about. They want to hear our stories, so.
That's great, that's great.
So I'm Michelle with the South Texas chapter. This is my first experience. I've had 2 experiences with the Capitol Day in state of Texas. And what stood out to me, just kind of sharing that same sentiment. Here at the AFSP family, we get comfortable with sharing our story, saying it, and that gives us the confidence to say it out there in the community. And the Hill Day, having a successful Hill visit session was really great. And it also gave you the confidence to ask, is he available for a photo? Or is he available to say hello? Or I'm a constituent as well. And so, and it did, it resulted in a face-to-face as well. And so, and the stories were important in sharing that confidently. So I think the biggest takeaway would be having that confidence to share your story, here, where you kind of get that support, and then also out there where we can get action.
Great, that's
Okay, I
great.
think Tom Robinson right here, and then we got over in this corner. And these will be the last 2 over here, Tom, and then the last 2.
Yeah, somebody's alarm just went off, so there you go.
Okay, I was being polite.
Oh.
I'm getting soft as a result of these things. When I started, I don't know, almost 10 years ago in South Carolina, when we were essentially talking to the wall, I mean, nobody wanted to hear what we had to say. The ice started to crack a little bit when servicemen and veterans became the icon for our movement. And yesterday, I was talking to a grizzled old Republican former sheriff and couldn't shut him up about how, and it's like, here's the packet, anything, I could ask you about in there. And it is amazing, the sea shift in at least my experience since my first one, which was that joint meeting when we had, here with the Leadership Council. So
Yeah.
I just think we've come a long way, and a lot of it has to do with how well you've prepared us.
Well, but let's say we've brought them a long way.
All
Yeah,
of us,
yeah.
all of us. Thank you, Tom.
Hi, Donna Bessler. I am from Canandaigua, New York. A big takeaway for me is not only the education, which everybody here is going to say, it's amazing, but just to refill, to really get us engaged and inspired and even more passionate, but that energy that we need to go back and to face everybody. And then it gives us that confidence to speak even more on the different policies. I wanted to add one little thing, and I know we got to hurry. We were in Catco's office, and he is, of course, we all know, amazing. But I showed him a picture of my 18-year-old who's currently in a struggle with depression, and it's his graduation announcement. He took it, and he asked if it was okay if he writes to him personally. So you guys, our stories are really what hits home. So I just thank you for this opportunity, and I want to thank Missy, our rock star leader. Thank you very much.
Okay, one last comment over here.
Hi, I'm Kevin from Iowa, and I just want to kind of follow up with what Tom had to say. For us personally, this year, the reception and the difference this year, just from last year alone, about the topic of suicide and mental health was like the complete opposite. We were never rushed. We were never hurried. They were asking questions. Personal stories were able to bring some tears out. And they had a lot of questions. The reason I bring this up is because it's due to the national level's work and each individual work that they put in at their own.
Hold on a second. Okay,
Sorry.
sorry.
It's that evil twin.
It's the White House calling, but I'm not going to answer.
Yeah, okay. But it's due to each individual's work in this room at the chapter level inside of your state that is, it's opening up doors now. It's making a difference. And, you know, being a suicide loss survivor, losing our 19-year-old son, to follow up with, you guys are our family. You know, we look forward to coming to these to reconnect with all of you and to see you and those relationships that flow so easily because unfortunately we all have so much in common. So more than anything, I just wanted to tell you that I love all of you and I thank all of you for what you're doing.
Okay, with that said, I'd like to call up AFSP's extraordinary CEO, Bob Gibbia, has a few special words. Why don't you talk right there?
All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. You know, listening to all of your comments, if you don't think we're making a difference, I don't know where you are, because we are making a difference, and it's because of all of you and your passion, your stories. You mentioned about becoming more informed, but at the end of the day, it is that fight inside of all of us and the family, as we all join together. So you are really making a difference, and I've been here for the long haul, and it's like night and day. And it's because of you. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for speaking out. Your voice matters. So thank you. I'm actually up here to present an award, but I'm going to do one other thing before, and that's to thank John and the policy office team, because it's phenomenal the work that they do day in and day out, and how dedicated, how smart, passionate they are, and they really make a difference. And I just want to recognize the team. John, you and your team are great.
Oh, it's the rest of the team. So that includes Chelsea. Chelsea's the one that did all of the extraordinary work this year. Taylor Wolf, Connor Jobs, Natalie Tejan, and our extraordinary interns, Zoe, our perfect timekeeper. So thank you, Bob. Again, it's all a team effort.
It's great. So I am up here to present an award, and you know, usually awards are, you know, the leadership award, this, that, and the other thing. They're easy to pronounce, and so John tells me we have a new award this year. Persipacity Award. Whew. I had to practice. I had to listen on my phone. Someone advised me to listen to it.
The definition's on the screen.
Not an easy word, but you know, what does it mean? Well, I looked it up, and if you're not familiar with this, it's interesting. It's a keen sense of understanding, of uncommon insight. These are really kind of interesting characteristics. Understanding the issues, the world we live in. It's just this kind of special kind of knowledge and insight into things. Shrewdness. Now, when I saw that one, I said, this is perfect for the recipient this year. Shrewdness, I love it. So, persipacity. It's a word we'll all get to know. So this year's recipient of the Persipacity Award, now that I can say it, I'm going to say it a lot, really defines this. This individual has really become the voice of advocacy in our family, in our community. Great insight into what needs to be done, understands the politics in such a kind of a keen way, understands how government operates, what we need to do to affect change, incredible impact and leadership. Now, this person has been involved with advocacy since we started doing it 10 years ago, and was at that first advocacy forum a decade ago. And I could tell you that her, now you know it's a her, her vision, her guidance, and persipacity has been really invaluable in all the years since, and has really set the tone for all the years to come. So it's a really great privilege and honor for me to present the first Perspicacity Award to Nancy Farrell. Love it.
I'll give you a chance to.
It's for you. For you. Perspic. I know how to say it. Perspic. So I told someone outside in a hall of Congress last night that I've been doing this for 10 years, and I don't expect it to take another 10 years to make a difference. We have to do change now. So that's perspic. Damn it! So the dangerous part of this award is that Bob will go and tell my husband that he called me a shrew, right? On a more serious note, so my brother Michael is with me always, and I know you all carry someone with you, or you carry the journey with you. And my mom brought me into this movement when she found AFSP just a few months after my brother died. And the first AFSP family that I met was a support group at Rutgers University. And when I walked into that room, I was in terror because I had no idea how I was even going to talk about my brother, because it hurt so much physically to talk about him. And when I walked out of that room, I knew I was going to live, because I had found the first circle of the family that has become all of you and everyone else at AFSP. So I am otherwise wordless, and I love you all.